live.
Hey guys, so today we're gonna go over installing Windows, our T session 33. Just a reminder, as all T sessions above 32, this is gonna be part of the 1002 curriculum. So let's get started. Okay, our objectives for today are to name the difference between installing and upgrading an operating system, to be able to describe the differences between attended and unattended installations, name the key steps to install Windows, including the different ways to begin the process, or identify common pitfalls that can occur when installing Windows and how to solve them, and 5, compare and contrast the upgrade requirements of Windows 7, 8, 8.1, and 10. Okay. Our PPSMs to keep in mind are communication, especially when dealing in a professional environment. If you're working at a company, you need to have clear communication between management and your IT department to find out exactly what departments need what kind of software or what kind of versions of Windows. Especially, you might be the person in charge of actually procuring the Windows, so you need good communications as a business person in order to understand the products that you're buying and how they're going to affect your enterprise. And the mindset that we should be using during this BSM is persistence. We want to be persistent in our goals and in our methodology. Okay, so let's get started here. When to do an installation versus an upgrade. Okay, so an installation means you're installing Windows, right? You're installing, you're starting from scratch, you're putting in the entire operating system. While when you're upgrading, it means you're going from one version to a newer version usually, right? You never want to I don't think you can upgrade to a lower. You can, but you would probably have to do a clean installation. Like you have to go backwards. So yeah, there are various situations that might require a Windows installation, upgrading to a different version or edition of needing, doing a clean install, which we went over yesterday, doing a repair installation, doing multi or dual boot, or remote network installation. Okay, we spoke about a lot of these things yesterday: remote installations, repair installations, and those kind of things. Does anyone remember what a clean install is?
Bare metal.
Bare metal, starting from scratch, pretty much, right? You're gonna have to configure all your settings and your profiles and things like that, unless you have it backed up, right? What about a repair installation? What's the instance that you guys think we can use a repair installation?
To fix an issue.
Fix an issue, yeah, something, like malware could be a big one, right? You have viruses and malware that do damage to PCs, and they might get into your system files or your Windows files, and you might want to do a repair installation then. Okay. What about multi or dual boot? Do we remember what that is?
Can boot into multiple
Installing more than one version.
Multiple operating systems, that's right.
Yes.
So multi or dual boot for Windows. What about in Apple? What would that be called? Do you remember, Joyce? Sorry to pick on you.
Can you repeat that again?
Do you remember what we would call the multi or dual boot environment in Apple? What will allow you to boot multiple?
Oh, yes, when you have like 2 operating systems, something like that? Was it that?
Yeah, do you remember the name for it for Apple?
Oh, no, I don't know Apple.
It's something that the military sends you to.
Boot
We're
camp.
we're in one right now.
Boot camp. Wow, that's harsh, Greg. Thank you, Joy. Sorry, you were one of the first people on my screen, so that's why.
It is true. That is the style we are teaching. It's boot camp
It
style.
really is though.
Awesome. Hold on, let me widen my gallery here so I see all your lovely faces. All right. Now I see all of you. Awesome. All right. Okay, types of installation. Attended. So we spoke about this yesterday. Attended is when you have to physically go step by step, all the prompts, you're selecting your settings as you go. And then unattended, you configure the OS with little or no human intervention. All right, you can use bootable media to install the system, or you can do a sysprep. So when using this type, a system image is created, which is duplicated to another system. It can be installed across a network and is a simple method when many computers need an installation, need to be installed or upgraded, and are all identical. Okay, and then the last one is remote install, or IRS, and allows for several network installations at one time. Okay. So, final checklist and minimal install requirements. Your final checklist before beginning installation includes checking to be sure that the minimum hardware levels and system requirements have been achieved. The following 3 slides outline the minimum installations for Windows 7, Windows 8.1, and Windows 10. Went over this yesterday. Does everyone have this information? Okay. Windows 7. Windows 8 and 8.1. What's the difference that we see between 8.1 and 7 and 8?
Can you go back to the slide before that?
Yes, I can, Ebony. 1 second.
No internet access input device.
Sorry.
I said no internet access or no input devices.
Well, it's not listed as a requirement, but we're looking for a specific hardware between 7.
Hardware, okay.
Yeah. Between 7 and 8.1. Okay. So
You're saying that there's sorry, I missed the question. You're saying you want to know the difference between 8 and 8.1?
No, I wanted to know what was different for install requirements between 8 and 7. So basically what I was looking for is the processor, it's still a 1 gigahertz processor, but for Windows 8, where we need those things that we're talking about, the PAE, the physical address extension, the NX bit, and the SSE.
That's the one I wanted to talk about today. What's the SSE? I don't even remember what that is, or know what it is, I should say. Secure socket something?
The acronym is, can you help me out with the acronym, Kelly? I don't have it up right now. For SSE.
SSE, yeah, I can't remember off the top of my phone, off the top of my head. I'm pulling it up. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
No worries.
See, there's a 4.2 available. I don't know what it means though. Let's see.
All right, SSE means streaming SIMD extension.
Okay,
was
so
a-
we won't need to know that. Okay, thank you.
No, we don't really need to know the meaning behind that.
Okay,
And we said
Yeah.
that was for security purposes, right, Kelly?
SIMD is single instruction, multiple data.
okay. I think you can remember that. That's technically what you guys are doing right now.
Yeah. But do we need to know these requirements for A+? Yes, absolutely we do. But there's a trick to it, which we'll let you know.
And here are the requirements for Windows 10. Again, this is information that we got yesterday. We also went over it in the videos just now. Basically, in the videos, I have a question, Kelly. This is what I was trying to ask you earlier. Professor Messer still had the processor requirements for the PAE, the NX, and the SSE for Windows 10, but we don't have it here. Are we going with what Professor Messer said, or what we have here?
Well, what it is just know that it was introduced in Windows 8 and then carried forward.
Oh, carry forward. Okay, great.
Because
Awesome. So-
basically what that is allowing the use, it's so that you can start using things like BitLocker and encryption file system and stuff like that. And then also allowing the use of the TPM module on the motherboard.
Awesome.
So, but we'll get into that a little bit.
The trusted platform. Okay, great.
Yeah, trusted platform module.
And also that offloaded memory too, yeah.
So what seems to stay the same throughout 7, 8, 8.1, and 10?
One gigahertz processor, that the bare minimum. It's 1 something.
So
A bunch of them are
1
ones.
1 gigahertz processor. What else?
One GB.
The memory requirements and the hard disk requirements.
The memory requirements and the hard disk requirements are the same across like the 64-bit version, the processor, the memory, and the hard drive always remain the same.
That's the tricky part, because you said what remains same, and I know the 32-bit doesn't require that in 7, so that's why I
Yeah.
didn't list that. Okay.
The 32-bit processor across 7, 8, 8.1, and 10. Also, the requirements never change for the 32-bit architecture. So all you need to remember is the difference between 32 and 64, and you know all versions.
There's a 3210?
I think they did initially.
Huh. Because, yeah, okay.
If
All
I'm
right.
not mistaken, I think they did initially, but they have rolled it out since. But I will confirm. So
Boot methods for installing or upgrading. Some of these we spoke about before. Yeah, DVD. So used to be, oh, it's here too, CD-ROMs, DVD, USB flash drives, which are extremely common right now. All right. Also called solid state, and PXE, spelled PXE, which stands for pre-boot execution environment, and it's used in conjunction with a server, usually called a PXE server, and is used for unintended installations. When using it, usually loads the Windows pre-installation environment, which is WinPE, which stores the OS and a stub in RAM, and then installs the OS image onto the hard drive. Okay, so PXE is something that you would use in enterprise environments. You would, create an image for installation, and then you would have that image and then get ready to distribute it, and you would do that using the PXE environment or the Windows pre-installation environment. Has anyone heard of PXE before?
You used to have to use it.
No.
Okay. Well, if you haven't heard of it and you haven't used it before, no worries, because guess what?
There's a lab for that.
There's a lab for that. Yes, there's a lab for that. Yeah. And you'll probably be coming up across that real quick. So
Probably this
keep
week.
an eye out for that on test out. Is there anything you'd like to add to the Pixie, Kelly?
Mostly just about the images. When we create images on the drives, what we're doing is not everybody in your organization is going to have the same need for applications, the same authorization to use programs or access. So to make it easier for you in IT, what you do is you're going to create images for different groups of people. So you may have an image for your operations people. You may have an image for your accounting people, an image for your HR people. Each one is going to be different because they're going to have different needs and requirements and authority levels. So Pixies save you a lot of time, and you don't have to physically go to the system. You can just push it out to it, and it allows the install to happen.
Ebony, I see that you say that you're confused. Is there something you'd like me to go over again or explain again? You could just tell me in chat what it is. And yeah, thank you for the clarification on the image, Kelly. I remember in our cohort, the way that I remembered it was almost like taking a snapshot for different purposes, right? That's what we were
Exactly.
do as an image, right? So I know that a good example that you used before is that if you're working in a logistic company, the people, your drivers are not going to need the same images on their, you know, as the accounting department, or the same, you know, someone who's in a different department. They're going to all need different access to different things, and they're going to need. So that's why you would create these images for each specific department, and then when you're installing or upgraded, you can say, okay, we're going to use the accounting. This person is accountant. We're going to use the accounting image for that person, or this person is in logistics. We're going to give them the logistics image.
Correct. Yeah. So like, you know, if somebody's in HR, they're going to need access to like all the employee files and stuff like that. So they're going to need access to those servers. Somebody is in operations, doesn't need access to those servers or the, you know, the employee files. So you would have different images for each one of those groups. So exactly.
Thank you. And we're just going to backtrack just a little bit so we can explain a little bit more to Ebony about the differences between the 32 and 64-bit processors. So I'm going to go back. Okay. So so Windows is operating systems come in two different architectures, Ebony, 32-bit and 64-bit. Okay, and then those different architectures have different requirements. And so this table, if you notice here in memory, it says 1 GB for a 32-bit processor. But that same version of Windows, if it's a 64-bit processor, will require 2 GB. So when we're talking about 32-bit or 64-bit, we're speaking about the actual architecture of the processor. I don't know, does that explain it a little bit more, or makes it a little easier to follow? All right, and then so like you get it now, okay. And then so your architecture is going to determine everything else for that system, right? It's going to determine what kind of programs you run, what kind of programs you can download, how your files are saved, all that, depending on the architecture system that you use for your processor. In the real world, we've moved away from 32 bits. I think Windows 11 only supports 64-bit. Is that correct, Kelly?
Predominantly, almost everything's 64-bit now. It's very rare to see 32-bit.
Yeah, but you know, in a professional environment, you know, companies take a while, some time to upgrade things. You'll definitely be seeing like Windows 7, Windows 10 that run on 32 bits. So you do need to know this information for the exam. And so these charts here, if you go through them, it will have the requirements for 32-bit and then for 64-bit. You just gotta, you know, keep an eye out for it. There, I think later on there is a better chart where it actually like separates it into columns. The gigabyte depends on the processor, the GB. Gigabyte?
Sorry, what? I have some white noise in the background.
No, so no. I was reading the question. So the gigabyte is the amount of space for the RAM for your memory, and so for your memory and for your storage, and what that's telling you is the minimum amount that you need for that architecture. So if I'm installing Windows 8, I need at least 1 gigabyte of memory for a 32-bit system. And I would need at least 16 gigabytes of free storage for a 32-gigabit system. Okay, so gigabyte doesn't pretend to the processor; it pretends to storage and memory. Gigahertz is what we use to measure the processor. But the requirements of how much you need is based on the architecture, whether you're installing a 32-bit system or a 64-bit system. Okay, awesome. Does anyone else have any questions about this at the moment? Okay, so we're gonna move up a little bit. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in chat or just raise your hand. Okay, so we went over Pixie. Okay, my voice is getting a little tired, so I'm gonna ask on someone to read this for me. I'm just gonna pick someone right now. Rahel, would you please read 5?
NetBoot. This method was developed by Apple and allows a device to boot from a network location. Uses DHCP to receive the configuration data. Net install works in a similar way to Windows deployment service.
Thank you so much. NetBoot. So NetBoot was developed by Apple and it allows you to do installations over the network. It works similar to Windows deployment services and it uses DHCP. I know we haven't gone over that yet. DHCP is Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, and it's something that we're going to delve into more when we get into networking. But it's just good to start familiarizing yourself with the terms and the acronyms here. Okay. How about Cedric? Would you read 6 for me, please?
Sure. External hot swappable drives. Similar to the USB, CD, or DVD drive, an external hard drive can contain the system installation files necessary for installation. Hot swappable technology allows for the device to be connected or disconnected without turning the system off. The external drive can be set to boot first by configuring the BIOS, so it will look at it as another drive.
Awesome, thank you so much. So hot swappable drives work similarly to your USB or CD drive, meaning that you have the operating system in that drive and you're basically connecting it to your system while it's on. That's what hot swappable means, right? That you don't have to turn it off. You don't have to turn it off or shut the system down to plug it in. Basically, when you plug that in, if you have it set in your boot order in the BIOS, you can have it set to go look for the operating system in that drive that you just plugged in. All right. How about number 7? JR, would you read number 7 for me, please? And thank you.
Internal hard drive partition. This is the most common location for the boot files. The files are placed there during the installation and will often contain the original installation image. Instead of using another source for a clean install, this partition can restore the system back to the factory system. Otherwise, this partition will be accessed if there are no boot files located on any of the other drives or bot sources.
All I am definitely guilty of crashing my system and having to go through a factory reset. I don't know if you guys have, usually when you have Windows installed, you have it set in a partition on your drive where it's sitting. And if you, for any reason you want to do a clean install again, you go into the said partition in your boot order, and that's where the operating system goes to look that's where the system will go to look for the operating system. And you can
We
also
affectionately refer to that as the King method.
No. It was done. There was no recovering. It's just you got to go back from scratch. But yeah, the King method is some. Have you told them about the King method already, Kelly?
I haven't told him about the King method yet.
You haven't? All right. So Kelly had a fellow student. They went through the cohort together, and then they became TAs together. And his name was his last name is King. And the first thing that he does is, the computer's not turning on. I gotta take it apart and find out. He's like, he goes straight to the pretty much the most invasive repair that he can do.
He worked at Circuit City prior to coming to the cohort, like years ago when he was in college. And any repair at Circuit City just involved a factory reset on the system. And so, like, no attempt to fix it, no attempt to troubleshoot it. It was just straight up, yeah, we just did a factory reset on it and everything's fine. And so, we jokingly started calling it the King method. Because in any method that, any repair that comes up, instant was like factory reset.
Funny real life thing. Not that that'll be on the exam for you guys.
No, it won't be on the exam.
Stay away from the King method. Any questions about these boot methods here, guys, before we move on to the next slide?
Yes, I do have a question. I would like to know, what should I understand by hot swappable technology?
Okay, so hot swappable means that you can plug it in and out without turning the system off. So you know your USB flash drives? Let me see if I have one. Does anyone have a USB that they can put on camera? I think mine's are in my book bag right now. But yeah, a USB flash drive or an external hard drive that you can just plug into your system without having to turn it off. In servers, some hard drives are also hot swappable, right? Like for some RAID arrays and things like that. Does that answer your question, Cedric?
Yes, good. And the second question is about the netbook. So I would like to make sure that I understand. Does that mean if I am in an area and it's gonna be installed by network, or I'm not sure about it, right?
Okay, so netboot specifically is an Apple technology, and basically what you can do is, let's say that your enterprise is running Apple products, you can install operating systems onto those products using netbook, and you can do that over the network. So meaning you don't have to go to each physical device and install it physically.
Oh, okay, I see. Thank you.
Okay, and it goes beyond that. It could be set up to use the DHCP configuration data to do it through that. It gets more complicated, but for the basics, that's what it does. It allows you to install operating systems to Apple devices over the network.
I see. Thank you.
Awesome. Marinat.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about the Apple netbook too, because the other time you were telling someone that they could use two operating systems, that the name is something related to the Army. Is it the net?
No. So Boot Camp is also an Apple technology, right? But what that does is allows you to use two operating systems on your Apple device. So that's what boot camp is. That's why I was, when you go to the Army, usually they send you to boot camp, for about 12 weeks, about 3 months. And that's where you learn all the basics of the Army. And that's what they decided to call that platform that they use for multiple operating systems. And that
Okay,
is
the Apple device you mean is the phone, the iPhone, or the the Mac computer?
I'm talking about the Mac computers.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Awesome. Great question, guys. Any other questions before I go on to the next slide?
Yeah, DW.
Yeah,
On
who's
the,
that? Steven,
Steven. Yeah, the external hot swappable devices. I know you said that we can do that while the power's on and everything, but does that work the same way with updates? What happens if the power goes off while you're doing that? Does that corrupt all the files and everything, or not that that would happen? But
If you're doing updates on the main system, or are you talking about the BIOS?
yeah, the BIOS.
If the power gets interrupted by while you're flashing the BIOS, what happens?
Oh, I'm sorry, you were asking them. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it corrupts it, don't it?
Yeah, it becomes a brick. It becomes unusable if that happens during the BIOS. But this is like you're setting configuration in the BIOS for devices like that would be hot swappable, like USB, CDs, DVD drives, external stuff, not stuff that would be internal to the system. And it just allows you to connect and disconnect without turning the system off for those external devices. That's all hot swappable is. Is that cleared up, Stephen?
Yeah, it does.
So like if you have an external DVD drive, you can go into your BIOS and set that external DVD drive to be your primary boot when you start up your computer, and it would go there looking for the operating system.
Right.
So does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so you want to be extremely careful when you're upgrading your BIOS, which is, if we remember, what do we call that? Firmware? Yeah, so it's not hard and it's not soft. It's right in between because it has a little bit of both. It integrates the hardware with the software. And that's when you want to be absolutely sure that, you know, your power is not going to be interrupted, because like Kelly said, if you lose power while you're upgrading your BIOS, you will have a very expensive paperweight. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next slide here. So boot methods for installing or upgrading. This is the third slide. This is a good screenshot opportunity. These are key files and system files. All right, boot manager, BCD, winload.exe, NTOS kernel.exe, and winresume. And then your system files, HAL.dll, smss.exe, winlogon.exe, lsass.exe. All right, do you have to know them like internet, like deeply? I would say that for the exam, you don't need to go that deep into it, but you do need to know that these are important files and system files. So take a screenshot of this. When you're doing things in Task Manager, make sure that if you don't know what something is, before you kill it, go and do some research on what it is, because you don't want to kill something and then crash your complete system because you ended a system file. All right, so again, guys, take a screenshot of this here. Awesome. And we're gonna go on to the next slide. Okay, decisions to make during installation. So you want to decide on the size of the partition that you're gonna do for your Windows installation. You want also to set your settings for the administrator account, and you also want to have your network configurations down. And then you want to decide if you're migrating. So you're going to, USMT, the user state migration tool, and this allows for large-scale automated deployments. When you're transferring user settings. If you're doing smaller deployments, then Windows Easy Transfer is the better way to go. It works more efficiently, but both are captured before the upgrade or the installation, and then they're deployed after the process has completed. And this could also be used with upgraded computer systems as well. User state migration tool is something that comes up more often. So definitely take down notes on that, as well as Windows Easy Transfer. You're probably going to become very familiar with USMT if you're working in a large company. Okay. Are we still recording? Was that your question, Greg?
Yes.
I verified. I was just checking. Yes, I wasn't seeing.
Yeah, we're still recording.
No, I was about to step away, but it's okay. It got solved.
Okay. Continuing with your decisions to make during installation, knowing the OS versions edition is important. Basically, we call this your upgrade map. So if you have Windows 7 starter, you're not going to be able to upgrade to Windows 8 Enterprise. Okay, so you need to know what Windows version you currently have installed in the system that you want to upgrade, and whether the path allows you to upgrade or if you need to do a clean install. So this is another great slide to take a screenshot of. And do you need to know this? Yes, you do. There will be questions asking, hey, a customer brings into the shop Windows Starter and they want to upgrade to Windows Pro. Can they do that? So now we're going to talk about the steps for a clean installation. I'll have someone volunteer, please, to read the first 2 bullet points. Don't be shy
I can
now.
do it, sir. I can.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Clean installation steps. There can be many issues and pitfalls when installing an operating system, some of which may require another attempt to install. Doing a thorough inspection of the system before starting the install might alleviate some of the issues. Steps to perform a clean install or dual boot. If no OS is installed on PC, load the bootable media disk, external drive, or USB following the prompts. If OS is already installed on PC, everything on the hard drive will be erased and replaced with a new clean versions of Windows, unless a dual boot choice is made. This will place 2 operating systems on the same computer, and the user will need to choose one of the OS or the other, so BIOS will know which OS to load. Installing a 64-bit OS when a 32-bit OS is already installed can only be accomplished first if the actual system architecture allows it. This must be a clean install and never an in-place upgrade.
Thank you so much, Gary. Gali, I see that you have a question.
Yeah, it was about the previous page. When you just said that, like, we need to know for the previous slide about like updating the Windows. So if you have, for example, the Windows 7 starter, so you can only update it to Windows 8 and Windows 10's home. You can't, like, is that how we're gonna like try to remember it and read it, or can you still update to, like, let's say a Windows 7 starter to a Windows 8 Enterprise or something like that? Like how does that work?
So this one is giving you all the different versions for the Windows, right? So you remember that Windows 7 has 6 different versions. Windows 8 got like simplified a bit, and so does Windows 10. This slide specifically is giving you the versions. There's a slide coming up where we do go over, if you have Windows 7, what you can upgrade to. But yes, you would need to know, like, if you got Windows 7 starter or home basic, you can't upgrade it into an enterprise edition. You would have to purchase the new a license for that. And even for like enterprise, those are only sold through like software licensing agreements. Like you need to like order a specific amount. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Well, that slide's gonna come up. That's on me. I probably didn't identify the slide correctly.
All right, no, it's no problem. That's why I just wanted to know exactly what that slide was because I was confused because but yeah, so I understand. Thank you.
All right, awesome.
So I have a question too. So
About
does
that
that
slide
mean,
or this
yes,
slide?
yes, sorry, that slide.
This slide or the previous one?
No, the previous one.
Okay, here we go.
So if we have the Windows starter, I just want to make sure, Windows 7 starter, we cannot upgrade with the Windows 8 Pro? Or
No, because
Is it-
what happens is that Windows 8 Pro is a higher level of product, like you get more functionality, so you can't upgrade to it. What you would have to do is purchase, Windows 8 Pro, and then you would do a clean installation at that point.
okay, so if we have
Upgrade
Windows
means
7,
yeah, so when we're doing upgrades, it means that you're going from one version, right, up to the newer version. But Windows 8 Pro is a different product than Windows 8 Home. You get different
Okay.
functionality on it.
so if we have Windows 7, we can just upgrade with Windows starter, not Windows 8.
Right, and then Windows 7 starter is like very, very basic. If we remember correctly from the professor video, it was used for like netbooks. Like it's like bare bones almost.
Okay.
It was only used in emerging markets.
Also,
Starter, yeah, Windows Starter was only used in emerging markets.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I wanted to talk about a little bit more about this slide here. So if there's no OS installed on the PC, when you put in the bootable media, you just got to follow the prompts. Basically, it's gonna be very simple. You don't got any prior things to worry about. But if you already have an operating system installed, then you need to decide whether you're gonna do that clean installation or you're gonna go for a dual boot. And dual boot means you're gonna install 2 operating systems on there. Right? And then you would have to go into your BIOS and set up which operating system is going to boot first, or if you want the user to select the operating system when they're logging in. Does that make sense here, guys? Any questions about that?
Yeah, it does.
Right, can you say that again one more time?
Okay, so if you have already, if you have an operating system on your system, right, and you're going to do a clean install, you have to decide whether you're going to go over that operating system or you're going to go into a dual boot environment. If you're going to operate 2 operating systems, if you're going to install 2 operating systems into that computer. And then when you do that, you would configure it in the BIOS for the system to know which system to go to first, or you would set it up for the user to select every time that the system is turned on.
Okay, so you will have the operating system. Let's say you want both of them up for the previous upgrade, previous version, and then the operating system for the next one that you're updating.
Yeah, so like a good example is like in school. Like I'm going to school now, so all the computers in the labs, they have 2 operating systems. They'll have like a student version that we have certain limitations to it, and they don't have like a staff version on it where they can like go in and do administrative things on that system, right? But the BIOS is set up that it loads by default into the student version because that's the majority of the people that are going to be using the system, right? And then there's other systems on there too, like we have Linux systems installed. We also have like iOS systems in there, but you have to go manually in and select those, and you need to have like administrator access.
All right, got it. Thank you.
All right, awesome. And then another thing is if you're upgrading from a 32-bit to a 64-bit, it always has to be a clean install. Always. It's not just a straight upgrade. You have to do a clean install. So what you have to do is, upgrade all your settings, upgrade all your files, back up all your settings, back up all your files. Make sure that you have backups, and then you would do a clean install, right? And you would go through the process and then come back at the end and migrate over your settings and your files. Okay, so does that make sense there, guys? Any questions? All right, awesome. We're gonna go on to the next slide then.
I'll pause the recording, switch to
Recording when you are talking. Good. All right. Awesome.
you're live.
Great. Thank you. Okay. So we spoke about what we do before to get ready for the installation. Then we went into the steps of doing the actual installation. Now we're going to talk about what you do after the installation and Windows is on your system. So what you want to do after that is load any third-party drivers. You know, go into your settings and make sure that you have the right date, time, and region, language, and all that. All right. Then you want to go into your driver installation, software, and Windows updates. Then you will want to make sure that you have a properly formatted boot drive. You want to verify that you have network access. You want to activate your Windows. Then you want to install updates and service packs. Then you will want to go to configure automatic updates. Then you go into your installing your hardware. Then you would install applications. And then you would set up user accounts and transfer user data. And last, you would start turning features on and off. So this is a good screenshot opportunity for checklists to do after you have installed your version of Windows. Okay. Upgrade paths. So we spoke about this a little bit earlier, being able to upgrade from one version to another and what you can do and what you can't do. Okay, so there's the Windows Upgrade Operating System Advisor, and its purpose is to advise and alleviate some of the issues that arise when trying to upgrade from one version of Windows to another. It will advise on any known compatibility issues. It will also automatically resolve some of those issues found or give recommendations to help you plan before the upgrading processes. All right. And it was first introduced in Windows Vista, but can be downloaded for any of the Windows operating systems through the Microsoft website. So it was a handy tool, you know, that will help you plan your upgrades and see what versions you can upgrade to based on the current Windows operating system that you're running. Okay. Windows Anytime Upgrade. So there's a little window here that's going to ask you to, that's going to pop up when you want to upgrade your Windows. Let's look at what it looks like. It'll ask you for an upgrade key, right? So, you know, being that the operating system now can be either downloaded or come in a flash drive, you're going to need that key. They used to come in the big boxes before, and the key would be either in the inside or somewhere on that box, and you would have to manually input that key. Now you can download keys, and it'll, you know, when you get into the screen, it'll generate the key for you. Okay. Upgrade requirements from Vista to Windows 7. Okay, so these are the slides that I was talking about earlier. So if you're looking at here, if you have Home Basic for Windows Vista, you'll be able to upgrade to Home Basic, Home Premium, or Ultimate. If you got Home Premium, you can update to Home Premium or Ultimate. If you got Business, you can update to Professional, Enterprise, or Ultimate. And if you got Enterprise, you can only upgrade to Enterprise. And if you got Ultimate, you can only upgrade to Ultimate. I mean, at those points, you're already at the top of the totem pole, so it's like there's not something higher up to upgrade to. Okay, but as you can see, if you have Home Basic, you can't upgrade to Professional. You can't upgrade to Enterprise. You can't upgrade to Ultimate. You know, if you have a Windows Business, you can go to Home Premium, Home Ultimate. Like, you can't go backwards, but at a certain point from the very basic, you can't go up too high either. So this is a good screenshot here, and we're gonna go over some of the other versions as well. So this is the requirement, the same slide for Windows 7 to 8. So Gali, you had questions about this earlier. This is the slide that I was referring to that kind of like labels it out exactly the way it should be and what it allows you to do and your upgrade paths. So another good screenshot here. Everyone had a chance to screenshot that? Okay, I'm gonna slide over to the next slide.
Can you go back the last slide, the first one?
Of course. Which one? The first one or this one?
Yeah, this one is good. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, are we good here now?
Yes, thank you.
No worries. All right. And here's upgrade requirements for Windows 8.1. Okay, and this little footnote means that if you're upgrading from Windows 7 to 8.1, you can only keep personal files, but not your application. So just keep that in mind. Okay, and then the second footnote, it says when you can upgrade to 8.1 from Windows 8 with one of two methods, through the Windows Store or via Upgrade Media, like a Windows disk. You can only change versions via Upgrade Media. Installing through the Windows Store locks you into the previous edition. That's if you're going from Windows 8 to 8.1 Pro. But then everything else is pretty straightforward. Okay. Did we all have a chance to screenshot this? Okay. And again, these are just some things that you're gonna have to commit to memory, okay? So upgrade requirements from Windows to Windows 10. So you can upgrade to Windows 10 from Windows 7, all right? But if you have Windows 7 starter, you can only go up to Windows 10. Like Kelly mentioned earlier, that was something seen in emerging markets, and it had very limited capabilities. So it was almost, you know, the very least that the system can do. All right. If you have Home Basic, you could go to Windows 10, but you can't go to Windows 10 Pro or 10 Education. And then the chart, you know, pretty much lays it out for you guys there. All right. If I got Windows Vista, can I upgrade to Windows 10? Just spam in chat, yes or no. So what would be the upgrade path if I had Windows Vista and I wanted to upgrade up to Windows 10? What are my two options?
Jump to 7 and then jump from 7 to 10.
Yes. And what's the other option if I want to get Windows 10?
Buy a license and install it. Bare metal.
Yeah, clean.
Get a clean install. Exactly. All right. Awesome. Good job, guys. Thank you. All right. Troubleshooting installation problems. So,
Quick question, David. When you say clean, mean you have to pay for it, right?
so a clean install, you have to pay for all of them. If you're upgrading, you still have to pay for the new version. Sometimes, like I know if you buy, like I don't know if they're doing it right now with Windows 11, but like let's say I was looking at computers for my kids, right? And it's the system, the thick client that they had was running Windows 10, but because Windows 11 is out, the manufacturer is giving out a product key for Windows 11. So at that point, I don't have to pay for it. It's something that you know, my computer manufacturer is providing to me. But for the most part, yeah, if you're upgrading into something, you're usually going to have to pay, right? Because you're getting newer functionality, you're getting the better upgrades. It's an upgrading technology, so that's, you know, usually you're going to have to pay for it.
Sometimes, like when Windows 10 first came out, they allowed a year's worth of free upgrades.
Yep. It's Windows
Yeah.
that's actually doing it for you. So Windows is allowing you to upgrade until I think next year, October.
For any Windows 10?
No, well, if as long as you have the security chip on your as long as the motherboard supports it.
Okay, cool. So I should upgrade.
The TPM, right?
Yeah, mine definitely supports it.
Mm.
But I don't know any of the bugs yet that's going on with it, so might wait a
I think
little
they did
bit.
with 7 though. 7 was a little bit longer. You could upgrade for like a whole, like almost 2 years.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm. Well, enterprise.
All right. Okay, so then sometimes you're gonna have to troubleshoot after your installation. The installation process itself is almost fail-proof, but some things might happen that are interpreted as an install failure, something like a media error. Like if you're using a DVD-ROM or a CD-ROM and it's scratched up and it's not reading, a driver issue with your RAID array where your RAID array is not detected, bad disks when when the BIOS is going through the boot order. Hey, good morning, Papa. Sure, I can open that.
You say yes?
Sorry about that, guys. My coworker had needed some assistance.
Happens.
And then, so we spoke about the no boot device being present. So, there's something going on in the BIOS where it's not detecting the boot media or the boot device. Then we have a hardware detection error. So you got to make sure that whatever hardware you're using is compatible. Remember when you're doing upgrades, some of the hardware that you have might not be compatible yet. The drivers might not be out for that new upgrade, right? So those are things to remember. And then lockups, it might just freeze. So that's what we refer to lockups, is when the system freezes, you might have to unplug the PC or stop power from it. So in order for you to be able to turn the system back on, and the installation should restart automatically, or like how Kelly likes to say, auto magically.
I can't claim that one. It was Mike Myers automatically.
Okay, but I got it from you, so I'm quoting you that you got this.
And I'm quoting someone else.
All right, so this was one of those slides that I was referring to earlier, where Ebony, you had the questions about the 32-bit and the 64-bit. This table outlays it like specifically for 32-bit versus 64-bit, and then these things at the bottom are shared by both. So this is a good slide that'll make it a little bit easier for you to memorize. This is actually the slide that I use to help me study. So I'll leave it up here for a couple of seconds to give you guys a chance to screenshot it while we wait. Are there any questions at the moment?
What's WDDM?
Say that one more time. You broke up a little bit.
What's WDDM?
I still couldn't hear. Would you type it in chat, Malina? I'm sorry.
She's asking what's WDDM, which is like, what is again, Windows display driver module?
I think it's the driver for your graphics card. So it's the name. You don't need to know the acronym, but just know that that's the requirement for it. It's the DirectX driver that you need for your video graphics card.
And all of them require a minimum of 9, the DirectX 9 or later. Yeah.
And then this is the driver that runs that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're gonna move on to the next slide there. Okay, and then this one's for 8.1. It's basically the same slide as before. Again, it lays it out in 32-bit and 64-bit architectures, which is a little bit easier to read, a little easier on the eyes. And I'll give you guys another 30 seconds here to get a screenshot of this. And I just, from personal experience, I would tell you that in my computer, there are about 500 screenshots from when I went through this course. And the way that it helped me study was actually going into my screenshots and labeling them into separate folders for different topics, and then putting those folders into 1001 space and 1002 space. So it's good to take your screenshots, but they're worthless unless you use them and you can access them when you need them. Okay. Don't just take a screenshot and then forget to study about it. Just a little bit of advice. And here we go, the last slide for Windows 10, again in the same format, the 32-bit architecture, the 64-bit architecture. All right. And again, these are things that you do need to know. So you're gonna get a lot of questions on this. There's a whole section in the CompTIA about it. So your certification exam might have 5 or 6 questions just on Windows versions and things. Did I say 1001? Sorry, I meant 1002. This is for 1002, 1002, 1002.
Yeah, 1002.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of this session, and we should now be able to name the differences between installing and upgrading an operating system, describe the differences between attended and unattended installations, name the key steps to install Windows, including the different ways to begin the process, identify common pitfalls that can occur when installing Windows and how to solve them, compare and contrast the upgrade requirements of Windows 7, 8, 8.1, and 10. We all have to do that, Ebony. We all have to do that. You're not alone. But yes, again, I would like to thank you all for allowing me to lead you through this T session, and I'll now give it back over